Hey and welcome to Neverwinter with Arrogance. So we finally got some news. The reworked Temple of the Spider dungeon will be coming very soon. I've got a planned date for you. You can skip to timestamps in the video play bar. But additionally, before we jump into that, the Demogorgon Trial still has no exact date on when it might be coming back. And again, the rewards for that will be as such with the normal and master mode, with that mythic set actually only dropping from master. Otherwise, sneakily on the preview server, you can check in the artifacts section. Just back here, there's one artifact I missed when going over through the new module. It's called the Sovereign Sporestaff. Unfortunately, it doesn't look like much. It's just going to deal a chunk of damage, reduce the enemy's movement speed, and additionally grant you extra movement speed. And doubling all those values while in Underdark could be useful when going up against packs of enemies. But again, I'll test it as soon as we can get our hands on it. So let's move to the details of the upcoming new dungeon. Well, it's not really new. It's just going to be a rework of a much older dungeon that came out way back in about the 23rd of April 2015. Nearly 8 years ago. And we've had the preview of Module 24 on the public preview server for quite some time now, a good few weeks, but no access to the new reworked Temple of the Spider. And the dungeon is listed here, and we can read a few details about it, but it doesn't explain much other than it's just going to be a rework. You're going to have to test your might against Sindrieth, the High Priestess of Lolth within the temple. So the story remains the same, and ultimately Temple of the Spider was the capstone dungeon after the Zone Roth Valley, which has just recently returned. Personally, I'm pretty excited for Temple of the Spider returning back in a much refreshed way. The rewards will be new, the feel of the flow of the fight will be absolutely different, with some advanced mechanics giving it an entire different feel to any of the other content we have right now. We'll definitely be seeing some new things. I personally have gone through and playtested it privately, and it has been some great fun, and I thank the devs for allowing me to have that opportunity. It also allows me to give the information to you guys, and I can spend the time while the dungeon is getting developed, testing it and figuring out the mechanics so I can spoil them all to you guys. However, nothing yet. When is the Temple of the Spider rework coming? Well, Lasser, who is a developer on these sort of content, announced that it shall be coming this Friday at 12 p.m. PDT, which is the equivalent of like 7 o'clock UTC. So for me, that will be 8 p.m. Now there will be both a normal and a master version coming out at the same time. Very good, giving content for the entirety of the player base. However, Master Temple of the Spider is going to require 75,000 item level. That is more item level than my Paladin has. But with just kitting out my rogue with a bit of the new stuff, resummoning my companion, you can see we have nearly 80,000 item level. So for anybody with a maxed out character, this isn't too much of a troubling requirement. And you don't want to be doing master content without a maxed out character, without having all of those juicy offensive stats as a damage dealer, and then tanks and healers will need their own specific ones. And the normal version will only need 30,000 item level, and that links up with our random dungeon queue, which just needs 35,000, so you'll be able to queue it up to it at a little bit lower item level, but personally recommend seeing how it is for yourself. I have not tested the normal version at all, and with a random group it's always way harder than with a group who know what they're doing. And he says he's looking forward to our feedback. So make sure, test it out if you will, and let the devs know on the forums what you think about it, whether this part was good, that part was bad. Those things always help. But be warned, the master version will be going away on Monday at that same time. So you'll only have about 3 days of test time to try and get the full experience of Temple of the Spider Master. And I'll definitely be going hard at it and seeing exactly whether we can beat it here on the previous server. Have we done also in private testing? Well, yes and no, because it's all a bit of a juggle between making it just the right difficulty. So if we do beat it, he'll increase the difficulty so that we don't beat it. So, or at least that it becomes a much more of a struggle to beat it, so that it isn't such a walk in the park. It's supposed to be challenging content for all the people with their maxed out characters who want to be tested to their limits on how good they are at playing the game. So some good fun. And how would you gain access to it? Well, you'll have to get the preview server where you can already access most of the Module 24 content. And in order to do so, hit the link in the video description below and it will lead you to this web page on the website Arc. Now you're going to have to play with an Arc account. You can't have like Epic Games, or you can't have an Xbox or PlayStation account. It's got to be from Arc. Steam, I believe nowadays screws you over as well by automatically giving you an account, but here we've logged in on my account, and with this link it should bring you here, playing on the public test server. And essentially what you have to do is copy one of your characters. You should see all your characters listed there over to one of the servers. So as an example, we take Gwen and we copy it over to the Mimic server, and this is the public test server for like the American region, basically the international server. Lurker, I believe, is Russian, and Owlbear is the private server. You won't see this unless you got Owlbear access, which is the private access, which you have to sign an NDA for. So copying your character to that should result in a success, and it'll say that like your request has been submitted, but it will happen immediately unless the server's down. Then you go to your actual launcher here. You're going to have to log in, and that is where if you have Epic Games, it won't like let you log in, or if you have the automatic Steam one, it won't let you log in. And of course, if you're on console, you won't have this. But here you can now select Neverwinter Preview, and you're going to have to re-download the entire pretty much game for that part. You can copy and paste the files if you're tech savvy, and then it would be the same with Owlbear if you have that. And you don't have to patch them all together. Like you can just patch the live server if that's all you're going to play, and then if you want to get interested and see what's on the preview server, you can patch that and play, and just can play launches the game like it normally would. And that's very simply how you would access the preview server and how you can do so in gaining access to the preview of the next module and its content. Again, Temple of the Spider, the reworked version, is going to be pretty fun, at least for me and my group, as we've been having good fun playtesting it. How good the rewards will be? Well, as far as we can tell right now, the only rewards that will require you to actually run Master Temple of the Spider will probably be upgrading these weapons to Legendary, and otherwise to obtain this Legendary gear, which is pretty garbage. Maybe the helmet for AoE, and the boots only for like running the dungeon itself. So you may as well run something else for all other content, and then why bother switching when you're running the dungeon? Seals, gear, that stuff there. And this artifact set, which has actually a very nice artifact, will drop within this Temple of the Spider, and you'll be able to sell it on obtaining it. So that's pretty neat. And that set, we can see, comes with this artifact, and when upgraded to Mythic, you can see it deals a bit of damage, but most importantly, it will reduce the enemy's movement speed, awareness, and increasing your allies' damage against the target. So this is like another debuff one, lasts 10 seconds and will basically give your party like 10% additional damage against the target. And it's got nice high item level, so a good option to use. You could run it as a tank just for the 3% defense with the set. Personally, I wouldn't run with the set. And otherwise, most importantly, you have all of these rings, and I have tested them out. I have tested the set bonus, and even just by reading it, it's not going to do a whole lot, guys. The rings, the ones that give stats, are pretty nice, and I will probably be using one or two of them. You could just run 2 and gain the set and the extra forte, but otherwise you're losing a bit of stats by using, let's say, this one to gain the crit strike, and then you would gain incoming healing, so that would be instead of some offensive stats. And this one has accuracy and combat advantage, and that will depend whether you can fit those stats. And that's about it for the rewards. However, you will obtain this, and I believe you can obtain these vanity pets. You might have to complete the master or just a normal one to upgrade your perfect spider totem to mythic, but again, we shall see. Overall, I'm pretty happy with the way the rework went with the new mechanics, and it's a completely different experience than just running normal Temple of the Spider. And on the other side, it's definitely a budget way for them to make, air quotes, new content. For me, it's just as good as new content because it's a dungeon I never would go out of my way to actually play, because it's absolutely a waste of time other than randomly getting it in a random queue, which I barely do anyway. I just run my advanced one and my trial queue, and there you go, that's everything I need. And with them just reworking a dungeon rather than like making an entirely new one, because there's already so many, basically it saves them a lot on their budget, allows them to bring in new mechanics for the different bosses much easier, along with creating other content in addition to it, rather than taking away from all the art developers' time to create like an entire different environment. Of course, they have done a significant amount of visual updates to it, and you will see that as well, but nowhere near as much as you would have to do to entirely from the ground up make an entire new dungeon, let's say like Vault of Stars. I personally, sure, would love to have entirely new content, but to be honest, rather than like a brand new dungeon every 2 years, I'd prefer a rework dungeon every half a year. Do that for a few years and get through these content we never run anymore. Rework your Cradle of the Death God, rework Tomb of the Nine Gods, those dungeons which have become very trivialized with barely any mechanics left to even take care of. So with that aside, just some news so you can be aware of that. I will most definitely be streaming this if my internet allows me to, so you can pop in and join on that, or check it all out for yourself. Get your group prepared. Again, just this Friday at these time slots for normal and master. You'll have plenty of time with normal, but only 3 days for master. So again, I'd like to give a special thank you to all of these channel members for their continued support. And if I presented this well, consider leaving the video a like. And if you're new around here, consider subscribing. We'll see you guys around. Goodbye for now.